Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to the course titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development. My name is Aradhna Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And today we are going to discuss some strategic communication plans. And that is again something very systematic, very nice, something that we can all relate to in the field of communication for development, for social development. Now we've been talking about what strategy is, what sustainability is, what sustainable development is, what communication in sustainable development is. We've also talked about the of, for and about sustainable communication. Now this is sustainable communication in action, and the source of this lecture is a paper by Tennyson and Ray called Strategic Communication Plan That Gathers No Dust, and they have studied the implications, or they've talked about creating a communication plan in the context of water services. So from the point of view of a utility service, but I'm going to take whatever they have said and apply it to the context of sustainable development, because I feel that any kind of development effort could benefit from whatever Tennyson and Ray have talked about. So this is, and I will give you the complete reference of that paper in the resources. Now some reasons why plans don't work. I've told you earlier also that when we make plans, in the real world, unexpected events throw us off balance. So some reasons why plans don't work are, one, many times plans are unrealistic in terms of the resources needed to carry them out. So we think that we need X, Y, Z, but when it comes to real nuts and bolts, many times the resources we either have or the resources we thought we would need to carry these plans out are not sufficient or adequate. The second is they are not flexible enough to show practitioners how to adapt to changing conditions. So when we say plan, we have a set system of action, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, etc. So, and many of us are procedure bound. Many of us like procedure. Many of us like to be told what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And when we are in the field, especially with the risks that are involved, depending on the intensity of the risks that are involved, many of us don't want to move too far away from the plan that has been proposed, that we've all agreed to carrying out. So, in doing that, we many times become inflexible, we become unadaptable in real situations. Then many times plans do not outline specific implementation steps or timelines. So many times when we make plans, we say step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this, etc. But many times we don't set timelines, we don't put down specific implementation routines. We don't say, okay, if this doesn't work out, then you may do this, or if this is not completed within this timeline, then you may do something different. So that is where plans tend to falter, or they don't work out as well as we expect them to. Then many times plans do not have the buy-in of those charged with implementation, which means that many times plans are not acceptable to the people who are actually going to carry them out. So somebody else decides the plan, somebody else needs the plan, somebody else decides, a different set of people decides the plan, and a totally different set of people carries them out. And that is why I've been insisting on participation, the participatory model of communication in sustainable development. Everybody needs to be on board, everybody, right from the community to the implementers, to the plan developers, to the evaluators, to the people who put in the money, who are putting in money. Everybody needs to be on the same page to carry these plans out. and plans fail because one of these groups has not been told why plans have been made the way they have been made, or one of these groups is not sure how to implement, what impact will their actions have on the ultimate goal that the plan is trying to achieve. They do not include measurement criteria. Another reason why plans tend to fail is that, yes, we make a plan, but we don't write down, or we don't discuss, we don't decide how whatever we are going to do is going to be evaluated. Who will say which of these steps worked the way it was supposed to have worked, and which of these steps could have done with some kind of improvement. So many times these plans don't have measurement techniques built into them, and that is why they tend to fail, because once it fails, then we don't know how to evaluate where the problem occurred. Okay. Some steps to create strategic communication plans that are realistic, creative, flexible, measurable, and above all else, usable documents that can lead to implementation. Plans are documents. We write down a plan, we discuss something, and then we put everything down in writing, and this becomes a permanent record that we can use to go back to whenever we lose track, or where we get sidetracked, or we forget what we are doing, or we are confused, or we get stuck in some step. We go back to the plan, and then we realize, okay, this is what we need to do next. So it is a document. Now, in the real world, when unexpected situations come, if our plan is not realistic, if it is not flexible, then it will just remain a document that gathers dust on your office table. But if it is realistic, then it will be something that we can use as a direction for what we are doing. Okay, so let's see how we can create these plans. This paper is fabulous. I will give you the total reference to it. It's very readable, and it's an amazing piece of work. So you must go through the paper and see how they have applied the concept of strategic communication plans to management of utilities. And when we take it to the development sector, if we put these plans in action, we can always, these plans can lead to sustainable development efforts. They can help considerably with sustainable development efforts. Okay. The first step in this is identification of goals and objectives, not the communication goals, not who I am trying to influence, but what I am trying to achieve at the end of the day. Okay, so it's not communication goals, who should listen to me, that is not the goal. The goal is whatever I am trying to do to the community, what will it do for the community. I want to go and speak to the people, but ultimately, why do I want to speak to the people? I want to do a needs assessment. Why do I want to do a needs assessment? That kind of thing. So the goals need to be very, very clear. Then the second part of this is, let's ask ourselves some questions. Does your utility or action one is going to take have clear goals? Do we have clear goals that everybody understands? If yes, where is the utility or action one is going to take going? What is the goal? What do we hope to achieve? What is the future of whatever we have achieved? Yes, I do a needs assessment. Then what? What comes next? Okay, what are the challenges and opportunities it will face? I go into the community, I try and talk to the people, and people don't talk to me, people don't trust me. Then people want to first know what I am doing, why I am doing it, why should they even sit there, why should they leave their fields and come and listen to me, why should they leave their housework and come and listen to me, why should they spend even 1 minute listening to me, why? So the challenges it presents, the opportunities it will present. Maybe in finding out what people's needs are, I can also find out what I can do for them. Maybe in telling me what they need, they also end up telling me what they can and cannot do themselves. So it could serve as an empowerment. After all, communication is a very powerful process. The minute we articulate our ideas and thoughts, we hear them ourselves, and then we realize, oh my God, I never realized it. That can also happen. Okay, so the opportunities these ideas or the clarification of goals and objectives present. So whatever we are going to do could also come up as an opportunity. So whatever we are saying as our challenges of communication could also end up being a conversation about resource communication. What kinds of resources we have, how are we going to use them, etc. Okay, how is the utility or action plan going to, or how is the the next step is how is the utility going to meet its goals, or how is the action one is going to take related to the goals it hopes to achieve. So again, needs assessment. Why needs assessment? What will I do? Talking to people. Why? What will the end result be? I can't predict it, but I should have some idea so that I don't go and waste my own time and resources and somebody else's time and resources and their faith. When people go into the community and talk, the local people start expecting something, and we should not betray their faith. Do those charged with communication know what these goals are? Okay. So do the people who are going to be implementing these things know what these goals of communication are? Identify audiences. An audience can be defined as an individual or organization on which the utility or action one is planning to take depends for success. That is the audience. Refrain from using the people who are going to be affected by the action we are going to take are defined as the audience. Refrain from using the term general public or categorizing audiences as general public. So we should not use the term general public. General public is a miscellaneous term. Wherever we can't categorize something, we just put it in a basket called general public. Okay, so we should refrain from using this term. Categorize the audience and prioritize these categories. We need to identify our audiences. We need to find out who is going to be affected by what we are going to do, and we should categorize them into different categories as far as possible. Some categories that have been suggested by Tennyson and Ray are, I'll share those categories with you in a minute. Okay, and then we establish the messages. We've talked about some stakeholder categories in the past lectures, but there are some more categories that Tennyson and Ray have suggested. Then we establish messages. So we prioritize, we categorize our audiences, and then we design our messages. And how do we, the messages are statements supported by facts that convey a key point. A message has to have a focus, it has to have a clear goal, it has to have a central idea. So we need to identify that central idea, and we need to, the central idea should be decided according to the need and receptivity of the people who are going to be affected by it, of the audience category. Who's going to listen to us? Why should they listen to us? So what will they be able to relate to? Will they be able to understand what we are saying or not? We should limit the number of messages, and we should repeat our messages within a decided period of time. We should test the receptivity and impact of the messages with a pilot audience before sending them out. So when we are deciding on a communication plan, when we are trying, let's take the example of helping people understand the value of throwing off, segregating biodegradable from non-biodegradable trash. Okay, very, very important aspect in today's world. And so when we think about these things, the biodegradable trash needs to be separated out, and we need to inform people. Let's just take that example. Now, telling people why biodegradable trash should be segregated from non-biodegradable trash is a very, very important thing. And they should understand what biodegradability is, what non-biodegradability is, why should this trash be separated, how should we tell them. We can't show them a video that made by National Geographic. If I want to go into, say, the villages around my campus, National Geographic makes fabulous videos. They've come up with such beautiful ways of explaining every natural phenomenon, but unfortunately their videos may not be acceptable to some of the audiences in regions that don't identify with the regions they have focused on. So they may be talking about biodegradability. I don't know if they have a video like this. I'm just taking a general example. This is a very, very credible source. But for people like us, amazing. Educating school children, I wouldn't think of a better resource. But would people living in the villages around Kharagpur be able to understand that video, even if the translation was in Bengali? I doubt it. Okay, or maybe some organization comes up with a scientific explanation, maybe not, but if we show them that look, you bury this toffee wrapper in the ground and you take it out a year from then and it will still be the same toffee wrapper, as opposed to a banana peel. You take a banana peel, you bury it in the ground and you dig up the same place after maybe 6 months and you will see that it has disintegrated. So the banana peel becomes part of the soil and the toffee wrapper does not become part of the soil. The banana peel, if you bury a banana peel and on that mound you plant a seed, the seed will grow, and if you make a layer of say toffee wrappers and put a thin layer of soil on it and then you put a seed, the seed will die. That is a concept that they will follow. So the receptivity of the audience, plus of course the language you use. So that is what we mean by establishing messages. Now Tennyson and Ray have suggested some categories of audiences, the messages that they are receptive to, and some of the tactics, and we'll discuss some categories, some ways in which we can strategize our message making. They say that the first category they talk about is the ratepayers. The ratepayers are a broad group of audience comprising many different levels of education and interest. So it is what we call as the general public, not really the general public, but people who could be tangentially related to the topic we are discussing, who could contribute in some way. They are the latents. We were talking about the latent and the apathetic populations when we were talking about the stakeholders. So this is somewhere between the latents and stakeholders, some people who could make a difference, some people who may not be able to, but they are still the affected parties. So they are the ratepayers, and they are a very broad group and they represent several levels. And what they need to know is, why should they listen to you? What is in it for me? That is the question they want answered by you. So the information that they are going to be receptive to is going to be the information that answers this question, what is in it for me? And the tactics we can use, or the way we can reach them, is by using these tools of mass media like newsletters, bill inserts, news releases, websites, etc. So they know what is in it for them, why should they listen to you? The second group that Tennyson and Ray talk about is the special interest group. So we move one level up in the sort of as far as the involvement is concerned. Special interest groups are more active in and informed about the community issues rather than most unaffiliated audiences. So these are the people who have special stake in the information. They already know what they want from the efforts that we are trying to put in as a group that is trying to help alleviate the standard of living, or the living situation, or that is trying to help with the development efforts. So they are already there because they have a special interest in that region. And the type of communication they are going to be receptive to is communication that acknowledges and caters to their interest. One, we accept that they have a special interest, they have a reason for listening to us, so we understand that, we acknowledge it. Whatever, we must respect their decision, why they want to listen to us. Maybe it's a politician, maybe it's a social worker, maybe just taking the example of biodegradable versus non-biodegradable, maybe it's a farmer, how will this trash affect my field? Maybe it is a homemaker, maybe it is the homemaker who doesn't know where to dispose of her trash and how to dispose it off. So it affects me. So these are the people who already know, and they say, okay, yes, it is going to be converted into soil that my family will use for farming. So what do I do with the trash that does not get converted into soil? So this is a special interest group, okay, there in the field. So the communication, the information we give them should acknowledge that they have an interest. We can't say that, okay, oh, you're a housewife, you don't need to know this. No, she has an interest in it. They get together and they say, just tell us what to do with this trash that we have generated. We brought home the flour is available in polythene bags, and our vegetables come in polythene bags. What do I do? How do I throw it in such a way that it doesn't damage the soil that my family is working on? So we acknowledge it and we cater to their interests, which means we talk in a language that they will understand. And the tactics Here are demonstration of benefits, presentations at monthly meetings, template articles showing cause and effect relationship in some way possible. So, and this will vary from group to group. The tactic we use will differ from the group that is involved. Okay. The next group that Tennyson and Ray talk about are the policymakers and regulators. Policymakers are the people who are actually deciding what should be done. Regulators are the ones who are saying how much should be done and when and where. So, policymakers need concise information. What needs to be done in the field and why should I be interested in it? Why should I be involved in it? Okay, I need to know this, but I need crisp information. Regulators, on the other hand, because they are going to decide the scope and the extent of the activities that we are going to carry out in the field, the extent of the development efforts that we need help for, they are the ones going to be deciding on how much, where, how, when, all of those things. So, they need more detail. So, their information cannot be persuasive, it has to be informational. The way we will talk to them will be, we don't have to persuade them, we don't have to, we don't have to advocate any cause. They know that it is important to segregate the biodegradable trash from the non-biodegradable trash. And the policy makers will ask the question, how can I help you? What can I do to help you achieve this goal? And the regulator will say, how much do you want achieved? This is in my capacity, this is not in my capacity. So, they need one-on-one briefings. Maybe you need to meet them. Maybe you need to, they need briefing for the people who are actually going to implement things in the fields. They could be, we could give them presentations at hearings, one-page issue briefs, and a thick, fat binder with detailed information that they can go back to whenever they need more information. Then we have internal audiences. Internal audiences are people who are directly affected. So, they need the general information that has been shared with external audience and specific information to respond to their concerns. Because they are the ones who are directly affected by the issue, they need specific information. And the tactics here again would not be advocacy related, but we could give them presentations, special meetings, newsletters, intranet, or one-on-one meetings, just going and talking to them. Industry. Now, these are the people with deep pockets, and they need detailed information, especially if they are funding the effort or interested in funding the effort. So, they want to do something for their CSR stuff, and they have deep pockets and they say, we want to allocate this much money. How can we help you? So, they need detailed information. Again, it cannot be advocacy related. It can't be persuasive. We just give them detailed information with a sound logic about why and how they should be spending any time and money on the effort that we are putting in. Okay, strategies and tactics. Strategies are approaches that will be used to meet one or more communication objectives, and tactics are the specific tools that we use to execute the above approach. So, how do we approach it? Is it going to be persuasive? Is it going to be informational? Is it going to be a request? So, that is the approach, that is the strategy. Tactic is, how do we persuade? How do we influence? How do I make a request? Do I beg with folded hands? Do I ask in person? Do I send them a letter? That is going to be the tactic. The tool that I use is going to be the tactic. The strategy will be how I do it and why. Okay. So, okay, method of strategizing or coming up with tactics. When we use our tactics or the tools that we use need to be, especially when dealing with the community, it has to be a single message with multiple channels. For maximum impact, there should be a single message with multiple channels for maximum impact. Then we organize our message by categories of audiences. So, one category of audience will need one type of message, the other category will need a different type of message. Then we also plan for the unexpected. We can't plan, but we can be prepared. So, I'll show you how we plan for the unexpected situations. You know, we can be ready for the unexpected situations. We prioritize our goals, we prioritize what we do, and we start small. Okay, so we decide that if this kind of a risk comes up, this is what we'll do. If this kind of a situation comes up, this is what we'll do, and we start with tiny goals that we achieve. Okay. Organizing by categories. How do we organize our message by categories? We have informational material. So various categories of informational material. So informational materials are one general. Different examples of informational material could be a general fact sheet about the organization, about the group that is going in with the development effort, its mission and areas of focus. Frequently asked questions fact sheet could be one. General presentation that can be tailored for different issues and projects could be one. Brochures and fact sheets describing specific programs could be one. So different types of informational material. The second method is the community relations. So speakers bureau, how do we connect with the community, how do we get their inputs? One is we give them information. The second category is we start with the participation. So we could have groups of people, we have community groups, we have school programs, we have special events, we have workshops, open houses, etc. Then we have public participation. Public participation is, can be achieved through different guidelines. Some guidelines for public participation are the importance of public input, even when not required by law for all future decisions. So we decide that we will get public input whenever, even when it is not required by the law. We will discourage public input on decisions that have already been taken. We will have a clear definition of how public input will influence future decisions. We will provide people with enough time to think through the information they have been provided and then give their inputs. Some tools for participation could be workshops, could be focus groups. Focus groups are we provide a small group of participants that represent a community or a special interest group with a chance to discuss a topic in depth, react to proposals and contribute their ideas. So that's a focus group. Then we have advisory committees. Okay, so some participation tools. Then we have media relations. Then this is another category of messages that of the way we can, or tactics, sorry. So media relations could be maintaining relationships with beat reporters, people capturing a category of events, planning media briefings, sending news releases, planning tours of facilities and projects for the media. How do we let the media know what we are doing? That is what we do in this: planning tours, developing ideas for feature or human interest stories, preparing spokespeople for media interviews. So who in our group or team can really deal with the media in such a way that we will get the maximum coverage and benefit out of our relationship with the media, and who will help us maintain that relationship with the media. Writing articles and letters. And then we have government relations, we have internal communication. So this is how we organize our strategies by category. Now, how do we plan for the unexpected? We make a list of potential crisis situations. This is what we are only preparing, we are not planning. We are preparing for the unexpected. We can make a list of potential crisis situations that we can encounter. We can decide who is going to play what kind of a role during the crisis. So who is going to be in the forefront, who is going to be the decision maker, etc. We can make lists of potential questions that will need to be answered in a crisis. We can make a list of media, community members and elected officials who might need to be called in time of a crisis. We can make a list of home phone numbers of supervisors and board members who will need to be contacted. We can make a list of resources that we can bank on during times of a crisis. So all of that, or the people who could be affected, that can be done. Then we prioritize. and some criteria that we can use for prioritization are proven track record. Have we already proven that this strategy or tactic works? Cost versus reach. What is the cost of implementing this strategy or tactic compared with the number of people in our audiences it will reach? Hard to reach audiences. Does the strategy or tactic enable the development effort to reach audiences that would otherwise be hard to reach? Cost. High touch. Is this a strategy or tactic that will lead to the creation of ongoing beneficial relationships with important audiences? So are we going to be able to connect with them as well as we are doing now? Preference of decision makers, feasibility of the strategy or tactic in a particular region. So how do decision makers view that particular strategy or tactic? Some decision makers may not like one strategy or tactic, so that cannot feature in our list. Feasibility and receptivity by audiences. Creating, and some more, the last steps here are creating the action plan. The action plan that we make should be adaptable, it should be open to feedback, it should be known to all the team members. Monitoring and evaluation is very important. We need to monitor the action plan that we put in place in a continuous manner. The monitoring should be realistic, and measurement should be with specific measurement tools built into the process, and ultimately the acceptance of the plan by the key stakeholders and decision makers. So to summarize, whatever we have done is, when we make a communication plan for sustainable development, these are some of the steps that we will go through. We'll identify goals and objectives, we'll identify audiences, we'll establish messages, we'll develop strategies and tactics, we'll prioritize, and we will create an action plan, and then we will monitor and evaluate that action plan and make sure the action plan is acceptable to the key decision makers. And we will discuss some more things in the next class. So thank you very much for listening.